all of women's sports. I think this is one of the biggest moments we've ever had. So,
Stop scrolling, because this isn't just another media headline. It's a calculated power shift. NBC is relaunching Sunday Night Basketball, and instead of playing it safe, they've placed Caitlin Clark at the center of the spotlight at the main desk in prime time at Madison Square Garden as the Lakers face the Knicks under the brightest lights in sports. She's not there as a guest or a halftime cameo. She's seated beside Hall of Fame legends, stepping into a role that signals something far bigger than commentary. This isn't nostalgia, it's strategy. NBC isn't just bringing back a broadcast. They're redefining who shapes the conversation around the game. And in one decisive move, they've made it clear. The future of basketball media isn't coming. It's already here. Tread the broadcast power play. Let me walk you through the business logic here, because it is genuinely brilliant. And I am not using that word loosely. NBC has a problem that every legacy sports broadcaster has right now. Their core audience is aging. The people who religiously watch pre-game shows in the 90s and 2000s, they are still watching, but they are not growing. Meanwhile, there is this massive young, engaged, digitally native audience that grew up watching highlights on their phones, following athletes on social media, and consuming sports through TikTok clips and Twitter thread. These fans do not have the same loyalty to traditional broadcast format. They are not going to tune in just because the graphics are slick and the theme music is nostalgic. They need a reason. They need a person. And Caitlin Clark is the most compelling reason in all of sports right now. Think about what this woman has done in the last 2 years alone. She turned a regular season Iowa Hawkeyes game into a national event. She broke records that had stood for decades. Records people assumed would never fall. She made the NCAA Women's Tournament the most watched basketball event in America, men's or women's, during her final run. When she entered the WNBA draft, it became a primetime spectacle. Her rookie season with the Indiana Fever was a cultural phenomenon. Arena attendance exploded. Television ratings for WNBA games she played in were up hundreds of %. Merchandise sales went through the roof. She did not just move the needle, she broke the needle, built a new one, and moved that one, too. And here is the thing that a lot of people miss. Her appeal is not limited to women's basketball fans. That is the old way of thinking about it. Caitlin Clark's fan base is enormous and diverse. NBA fans watch her. College football fans watch her. People who do not even follow sports know her name. She transcends the sport in a way that very few athletes in any era have managed to do. NBC understands this at a molecular level. They saw it firsthand during her college career. Remember when they put her record-breaking game behind the Peacock paywall? People who had never subscribed to a streaming service in their lives signed up just to watch her play. That is not normal. That is not even rare. That is essentially unprecedented for a college athlete. So, when it came time to choose the face of their billion-dollar NBA relaunch, the decision was not really a decision at all. It was obvious. The debut and the details. Now, let us talk about the specifics, because NBC did not just book Caitlin Clark for a random appearance. Every single detail of this rollout was calibrated with surgical precision. And when the night actually arrived, it delivered everything and more. Her debut was February 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern. Live from Madison Square Garden ahead of the Lakers vs. Knicks tip-off at 7 o'clock. NBC did not ease her in. They did not start her on some forgettable mid-season game between two lottery teams where nobody would notice if things went sideways. They threw her straight into the fire. The Mecca of basketball. LeBron James potentially making his final appearance at MSG as a Laker. Jalen Brunson and a Knicks team fighting for home court advantage. Courtside seats selling for over $1,000. Home. This was not a soft launch. This was a statement. And NBC knew exactly what they were doing. And they did not stop there. NBC brought out every weapon in the arsenal for this debut. Bob Costas was there. Michael Jordan made an appearance as a special contributor. You read that right. They put Caitlin Clark on the same broadcast night as Michael Jordan. That is the level of company NBC placed her in for the launch of their most important sports property since they got the NBA rights back as part of the league's 11-year $76 billion media deal. The last time NBC aired an NBA game was the 2002 finals between the Nets and Lakers. Over 2 decades of silence, and when they finally came back, they chose Caitlin Clark to help kick the door open. Clark joined the Basketball Night in America desk alongside host Maria Taylor, Carmelo Anthony, and Reggie Miller. And from the moment she appeared on screen, it was clear she belonged. She talked about the mystique of Madison Square Garden, admitted it was actually her first time at MSG for a Knicks game, and said there was just a different type of buzz in the building. She spoke about star players rising to the occasion in big moments. She discussed an NBA player she watches closely and broke down elements of the game with the kind of specificity that made the Hall of Famers next to her nod along. Her Fever teammate Sophie Cunningham watched from home and later said on her podcast that Clark was a natural up there. Aaliyah Boston, another Fever teammate who works as an NBC contributor for women's college basketball, posted on Instagram asking the question a lot of people were thinking, "What can't you do?" But here is where it got really fun. Before the broadcast, NBC set up a modified game of horse between Clark and former 20-year NBA veteran Jamal Crawford. Now, if you know anything about Caitlin Clark, you know she does not lose quietly. The behind-the-scenes story came out days later on the Let Her Shoot podcast. Sarah Chavnik, the director of the segment, revealed that Clark lost the first game and immediately told the producers, "No, best of 3. Nobody had planned for a best of 3. Clark just refused to walk away with a loss on camera." That moment, more than any analysis or pre-game breakdown, told you everything about who she is. She is not performing competitiveness. She is wired that way. Chubnik also added something that stuck with people. She said she judges athletes by how they treat the people they work with behind the scenes, and that Clark is someone you could safely meet as your hero and never be disappointed. The numbers backed up everything NBC hoped for. The Lakers vs. Knicks game that night pulled 4.5 million viewers across NBC and Telemundo, making it the most watched Sunday night regular season NBA game since 2002, excluding opening night and Christmas. The Knicks won 112-100, and the broadcast felt electric from start to finish. NBC President Rick Cordella was asked days later whether fans could expect to see a lot more of Clark on the network, and his answer was telling. He pointed to her existing relationship with Xfinity and Comcast, called her part of the family, and made it clear this was just the beginning. Clark's second scheduled appearance is March 29th in Oklahoma City when the Thunder host the Knicks. But everyone watching that night understood something bigger was unfolding. This was not a guest spot. This was an audition that she already passed. The Desk of Titans. Let us talk about what this is actually going to look like on screen because this is where it gets really fun. Picture the set. You have Vince Carter, 6 feet 6 inches, the greatest in-game dunker in the history of the sport, a man who jumped over a 7-footer in the Olympics and made it look casual. You have Tracy McGrady, one of the most effortlessly gifted scorers the game has ever produced, a guy who could get a bucket from anywhere on the floor without even looking like he was trying. You have Carmelo Anthony, the king of the mid-range, the jab-step assassin, one of the most prolific scorers in NBA history. And sitting right there with them, holding her own, you have Caitlin Clark, the woman who shoots from the logo like it is a layup, the woman whose court vision is so absurd that she makes NBA point guards do a double take. The conversations that are going to happen between these 4 people are going to be absolute gold. Imagine Caitlin asking Melo to break down his jab step and Melo actually getting into it, showing the footwork, explaining the reads. Imagine Vince Carter asking Caitlin about her range, genuinely curious about how she generates that kind of power from 35 feet. Imagine T-Mac and Caitlin comparing notes on how to create space off the dribble, finding common ground between his silky smooth NBA game and her fearless WNBA attack. These are not hypothetical fanfiction scenarios. These are the kinds of conversations that NBC is actively planning for. And every single one of them is going to go viral. Every clip, every exchange, every moment where a Hall of Famer looks at Caitlin Clark with genuine respect and says, "Yeah, she knows the game." That is going to spread across every platform on the internet within minutes. And speaking of viral moments, there is a tease that the producer Sam Flood dropped that has the internet absolutely buzzing. He said they are hoping to have Caitlin with a basketball in her hand on set. Now, that might sound innocent, but think about it. Why would you specifically mention that? What are they planning? The theories are flying. Maybe she does a shooting demonstration. Maybe she breaks down her own mechanics in real time. Maybe Reggie Miller shows up and they have a three-point contest right there in the studio. But the theory that has the most traction, the one that is setting every sneaker forum and basketball community on fire, is that Caitlin is going to debut her Nike signature shoe live on national television at Madison Square Garden. Nike has been suspiciously quiet about the release timeline. And if you think about it, what better launchpad could you possibly construct? Millions of viewers, the Garden, the biggest basketball broadcast debut of the year. It would be the most talked about shoe reveal since the original Air Jordans. The IQ they ignored. I know there will be critics. There are always critics. They are going to say she is too young. They are going to say she has no broadcast experience. They are going to say she has not earned a seat next to Hall of Famers. And to those people, I say respectfully, you have not been paying attention. Caitlin Clark has been in front of cameras since she was in high school. She did a Manning cast-style alternate broadcast during the Final Four. And she was phenomenal. Not just good for someone her age, not just decent for a first-timer, she was natural, insightful, funny, and genuinely compelling to watch. She hopped in the Yankees broadcast booth and held her own with seasoned professionals. She has done countless interviews, press conferences, and media appearances without a single awkward moment. She is comfortable in the spotlight in a way that most people never become in their entire careers. And her basketball IQ is off the charts. And this is not someone who is going to sit there and offer surface-level observations. Caitlin sees the game at a different level. She reads defenses like a quarterback reads coverages. She understands spacing, timing, angles, and passing lanes with a sophistication that impresses NBA coaches. Bringing that perspective to an NBA broadcast is fresh. It is exciting. And it is exactly the kind of differentiation NBC needs because let us be honest, sports pregame shows can get stale. The same retired players telling the same stories, offering the same predictable take. Caitlin brings something that cannot be manufactured. She brings the perspective of an active elite athlete who plays a style that mirrors the modern NBA. High-volume threes, pace and space, creative playmaking. She is the perfect analyst for this era of basketball because she literally plays this era of basketball. But beyond the broadcast itself, this move does something even more important for the sport as a whole. For years, the NBA and the WNBA have felt like separate universes, separate broadcasts, separate audiences, separate conversations. Having the face of the WNBA sitting on an NBA broadcast desk, analyzing NBA games with credibility and authority, builds a bridge. It tells the casual NBA fan, who might never watch a WNBA game, that this woman knows the game at an elite level. And if she can break down LeBron's pick-and-roll reads on a Sunday night, maybe her own games are worth watching too. It is cross-promotion at its absolute finest, and the ripple effects are going to benefit both leagues for years to come. Parallel paths, one vision. I tell you what impresses me most about this whole situation, and it is not the broadcast deal. It is the business savvy. Caitlin Clark is 22 years old. She is in the early stages of her professional playing career, and she is already building a media empire. Most athletes wait until they retire to start thinking about their second act. They play for 15, 20 years and then they scramble to figure out what comes next. Caitlin is building her post-playing career right now while she is in her prime, while the spotlight is brightest, while every door is wide open. That is extraordinary foresight for someone her age. And it tells you a lot about the team around her and her own understanding of how fleeting these windows can be. And the synergy with her existing deals makes this even smarter. She has already signed with Xfinity, which is owned by Comcast, the parent company of NBC. So this is not some random opportunity that fell into her lap. This is a strategic alignment of corporate interests that benefits everyone involved. NBC gets the biggest draw in sports. Comcast activates its investment in Caitlin through its own broadcast network. Caitlin gets a platform that reaches tens of millions of people and adds broadcast experience to a resume that already includes record-breaking athletic performance and a portfolio of endorsement deals that rivals players twice her age. She is not just maximizing her current earning potential, she is building equity in her future. Every minute she spends on that NBC set is an investment in a career that could extend decades beyond her playing days. You have to understand something about the way modern athlete branding works. The old model was linear. You play, you retire, you audition for a TV job, you hope someone gives you a chance. The new model, the Caitlin Clark model, is parallel. You build your playing career and your media career at the same time. And each one feeds the other. Every great moment she has on the NBC set makes more people want to watch her play for the Fever. Every great moment she has on the court makes more people want to hear what she has to say on Sunday night. It is a flywheel, and once it starts spinning, it is almost impossible to stop. And there is something deeply human about this story that I do not want to get lost in all the business talk. Think about who Caitlin Clark is as a person. This is someone who grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. Not exactly the center of the sports universe. She fell in love with basketball watching the game on television, studying it, and now she's going to be on the other side of that screen, inspiring the next generation of kids who are sitting on their couches right now watching basketball and dreaming their own dreams. Some little girl in some small town is going to see Caitlin Clark on NBC breaking down an NBA game and think, if she can do that, maybe I can too. And that is bigger than any ratings number, any business deal, or any viral clip. That is legacy. February 1st, Madison Square Garden. The lights won't just illuminate the court, they'll expose a shift in power. Lakers vs. Knicks. Hall of Famers at the desk. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark is stepping into prime time with a microphone instead of a basketball. On the surface, it's a debut. Beneath it, it feels like a strategic realignment of influence, of audience, of who truly drives the conversation in modern basketball. When the cameras go live and the music fades, pay attention not just to what's said, but to who commands the room. Because the most consequential moves aren't always made on the hardwood. They're made in the narrative. And when this night is over, the real question won't be whether she belonged there. It will be who the game belongs to.